coming into the next couple of months through pretty much to the middle of towards the end of July, if there's any kind of creative project that you really want to have take off or get some chi behind it, this is definitely the time to do it.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Qiological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. It takes me a while to notice when my own experience diverges from what I read in a book or heard from a trusted authority. In coming to my own sense of things, I often go looking for confirmation from an outside authority. I struggle with validating hunches with my own experience. I'm cautious with how I use my attention. While I enjoy the thrill and flash of insight, I'm equally as reluctant to give it much weight without some kind of validation and repeatability. So it took me a few years of needling Jing-Well points after starting to use Sa'am acupuncture before I figured out how to do it in a comfortable and effective way, because I needed to figure out where to needle. Now, the books will tell you that it's at the corner of the nail. I suspect you both put needles into that location and had others needle you there as well. It's rarely pleasant. I'm not sure why it took me so long to figure this out, because from my earliest experience with learning acupuncture, I was taught to palpate for points, that the textbook locations were descriptive, not prescriptive, that points are in different places on different people and even move around on a person, given the peculiarities of any given moment. But when it came to Jing-Wells, for some reason, I was a by-the-book kind of guy. Up until I started to feel for the point. Then I noticed what had been in front of me all along. I think it is true that at the very corner of the nail is where the qi emits from the channel. But that is not where you want to needle. Let's walk through this together. Go ahead. Put your fingernail of your index finger on the textbook location of a Jing-Well point and press it lightly. I don't know about you, but it feels like the qi is flowing out of that area. It's a bit forceful. For me, it feels like you were trying to stop the flow of water coming out of a garden hose by plugging the opening with your finger, which, of course, is what the textbook says, that the qi emits from here. But I don't think this is the most effective place to put a needle. And the reason I say that is because the qi coming out so strongly, putting a needle in would obstruct that flow. Painfully so. Instead, try this. Palpate the channel from the book location and go proximal 3 to 5 millimeters. In every case, you'll find a bit of a dip. As the Chinese say, a kong, a hole. Not only is there a bit of a dip, but there's also a little more meat to get the needle into. Again, press lightly with your fingernail and see how that feels to you. Now, go back to the textbook point, and then back to the more proximal location. Notice what happens to your breath. This slightly proximal location is where I now needle the Jing-Well points. I feel better needling here, where there's some meat that can receive the needle. I find that my patients find it more comfortable. I can feel the qi through the needle at this point, which was not something I could do when needling at the very corner of the nail. Making your own sense of the points and channels, really, it's about having a relationship with the points, about getting to know them through experience and time, and getting comfortable with how each person's physiology is a unique landscape that is readable and knowable, but you have to pay attention to what you feel. It's not just Jing-Well points. Really, it's any point. If there is an idea in your head, or if you're repeating what a teacher told you as a kind of mantra, then you might be missing the point. Yes, listen to others, and do be sure to build your own experiential vocabulary. Working out a vocabulary to understand East Asian medicine, that's something we do from the very first days of being introduced to yin-yang, 5 phases, and the 6 environmental qi. We learn to wrap or maybe warp our mind around these processes, take the words and concepts, and then go looking to see how they unfold into the world. These basics, where do they come from? And how do they influence our work? It's the dynamic cycling of the heavenly stems and the earthly branches that gives rise to what we take as the basic principles of East Asian medicine. We work with the 5 phases and the 6 qi all the time in clinic. But at another level of scale, all of that is working on us. In this conversation, we are again joined by Christine Cannon to explore the cosmological influences here in the middle of the fire horse year. It can be helpful to know something of the environmental influences that all of us share when working with the microcosm of our patients as we all journey through the macrocosm turning of the year. Saddle up. We have a ways to go with that fire horse. We'll take that ride right after a few messages from the folks who make it possible for Qiological to land in your podcast feed. Qiological Conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges? Our sponsors have solutions. Would you like to be able to better help your patients by understanding their blood work? Jessica Parker can take you on that journey. I'm always delighted to learn something new about acupuncture. If that describes you as well, then the Needle newsletter is for you. Later in the show, you'll hear why I use Jane to make my office run smoothly. And Blue Poppy reminds us that there is no such thing as a small detail. Your focus and intention are important. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast.
Your patients are so tired of hearing that their labs are normal, especially when they are clearly suffering. You can be the one that finally shows them why. I'm Dr. Jessica Parker. Join my 10-week functional medicine cohort for acupuncturists. I'll teach you exactly which labs to order, how to interpret those results through both the Eastern and functional medicine lenses. Imagine being able to confidently explain to your patients exactly why they're exhausted when they've been told time and time again that everything is just fine. And as acupuncturists, you're already amazing at reading the body and finding the root patterns. But what if you could see the microcosm of the body in a simple blood draw? Labs are not just data, but another vital sign. In this cohort, you'll discover how to spot things like thyroid dysfunction, hormone dysregulation, and hidden inflammation that Western lab interpretation often overlooks. Join me at drjessicaparker.com to elevate your practice and finally give your patients the complete answers that they've been searching for.
I suspect that, like me, you love acupuncture. The Needle, an email newsletter brought to you by a manual of acupuncture, provides you with useful clinical insights. Ever feel overwhelmed by what's going on in our world of traditional East Asian medical research? The Needle's fortnightly update not only summarizes findings from the latest trials, but also connects them with classical acupuncture theory and insightfully translates complex data into bite-sized, practical applications. To keep you on your toes, each issue features a point identification quiz to test your acupuncture knowledge, as well as exclusive offers from carefully selected partners like qingselfcare.com. Keep your practice informed and up to date. Sign up for free by visiting a manualofacupuncture.com and click on the Needle newsletter at the top of the page. Christine Cannon, welcome back to Qiological.
Pleased to be here. Thank you for having me back again.
Yeah, we've done this for a couple of years now. We take a little dive into the mid-year. What's happening here at the mid-year of this year, it's the fire horse.
It is, yes. Yeah. And we're, heading into the mid-year. We are peaking with the fire or the yang energy, of course, right? Just naturally in the northern hemisphere going into the height of summer. And with our qi periods, currently we're in the Xiaoyan period with the Wei Yin guest showing up, which is definitely manifesting in our weather currently. There have been a tremendous amount of tornadoes and rainstorms and wind throughout the Midwest. I think it's still happening very much as we speak.
I just had a patient text me and say, do I get a late charge if I don't come in because of the tornadoes this afternoon?
Right.
Interesting. I didn't even know we were having tornadoes this afternoon, but it's the Midwest and it's spring, so I should know better.
Exactly. And so, the weather events are definitely reflecting the Qi right now. And then as we head into the end of May, the demarcation points around about May 20th through to July 20th, we have the natural warm season of the Xiaoyang going into the height of summer, and the guest Qi is going to be Xiaoyin. So we have fire all around us, and the midpoint of the year is the point, the height of Yang Qi, and so the fire energy of the year is going to be really obvious and felt strongly.
So it's fire, fire, fire as we come into midsummer. The fire of the Xiaoyang, the fire of the Xiaoyin, and the fire horse at the height of summer.
Right. Now, the softening, if you want to call it that, aspect is that the overarching period Qi, or the 5 movement Qi for the year, is abundant water. So there is there's potential for some balancing to occur in our climactic factors, and also what we see in clinic with our patients. But it really does depend on where you are. So, for example, we here in Colorado, it's like we've been in this dry heat vortex while everyone around us is getting rain. California, the south coast of Texas, now the Midwest, and we've had a bit of a cold change in the last week, and we had a morning blizzard a couple of weeks ago that we came out of these 65, 70, 75 degree days and woke up to a fresh Friday morning, and it blizzarded until 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and then it disappeared and the sun was out and we were all sitting outside by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're getting these shots of cold here, but generally we've had the driest winter nearly on record. I think ski areas closed early because the snowpack wasn't holding up, but all around us there's been tremendous amount of moisture. Really, you've got to sort of really tap into where your geographic location is to see how these energies are showing up. So there's potential for a very warm summer, but there is that abundant water Qi as an overlay, being the period Qi for the year. So there's, we'll have to see how it shows up.
We'll have to see how it shows up. Yeah, I wonder about that. I look at it, I don't have the background that you have with this, but I look back 60 years. And the last time the fire horse rode through town, Cultural Revolution in China, that we had revolutions here, anti-war, civil rights, women's rights, students being shot by the National Guard. It rhymes with what's going on right now.
It does.
So that kind of thing has me a little edgy. I also hear about the great creativity of the horse, lots of energy, which can be useful. But, with so many things, as we practice Chinese medicine, more is not necessarily gooder.
Absolutely.
Right? We're looking for some kind of a functional balance, some kind of harmonious or coherent balance.
Yeah, and I think, and I'm hearing this in clinical practice with people embarking or considering embarking on a new endeavor or maybe a move, and it's almost like the process runs away on them and they have to put the brakes on. Like, it's kind of like, whoa, wait, this is going too fast. And these are just conversations that are having not within the context of the fire horse year. This is just people sharing their world with me as I'm working with them in clinic. And it's been a bit of a theme. It's like, well, I thought that this was the direction I was going to go in, but, well, no, sorry, there was a curveball, or it was just moving too fast and the person had to step back. Building from that, I'm seeing a lot of, there's a couple of things I'm seeing clinically that I wanted to bring up today. And one of them is a lot of people are experiencing lung issues and a lot of pressure on their metal.
I have noticed that as well. I have had an unusual amount of people coming in with some kind of chronic cough, people who never get coughs.
And that's that fire energy putting pressure on metal. And that's exactly what I'm seeing. We live in very different climates, Michael. I'm in a very dry climate. You're in a more humid climate.
Yes, you could
Right?
say that.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
very much.
and yet I'm seeing I got RSV and then I had 2 rounds of antibiotics because I had pneumonia, and now I still have a chronic cough and my back is killing me because I've been coughing so much. And here it's starting to turn into more dryness because we've had such a warm spell, but a lot of, metal duress. And that's from all that fire energy. And then I'm also seeing,
Now, hang on a second. Before we get into what you're seeing next, we'll get there in a second. I just want to put a pin in it. So fire impinging on metal, I get it. That's a very basic, fundamental Chinese medicine idea, that with a fire controlling the metal. In terms of treatment, do you use that, I'm going to call it celestial qi, or the way the year is moving? Or do you go more with what you're seeing as the presentation in the patient? Or do they look the same? Or if they look different, do you choose one over the other?
I feel like they're incoherence. I feel like I'm moistening the lung, I'm protecting the lung qi, and I'm cooling fire. Pretty much, that's it in a nutshell, really. In some people, they're more phlegmy than others. It's just their constitution. So I'm having to manage sort of protecting lung yin and qi while also resolving the phlegm, right? And so my favorite all-time herb for that is Tianhua Fen, trichosanthus root. It's especially out here in Western Colorado, it's my go-to because I see so much damp, but I see concurrent dryness. So I have to walk that line. So I'd have to say, Michael, honest anymore, because I interact with the Wu Yun theory so frequently, that it's just part of the lens that I look through now. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
It totally makes sense. Yeah, it's not separate from you. You've worked at it long enough that it simply is the way you work.
Yeah. And then there's the emotional component, like I see generally in clinical practice, I've always seen a lot of anxiety. Did it did it increase post-COVID? Absolutely. Is it high this year? Absolutely. And it's anxiety from, some people can't even explain why they're feeling anxious or why they were sleeping well and now they're waking up at 2 and they're edgy and they're not settled. And depending on my degree of comfort with communication with the patient, we might get into some specifics about why that might happen. But generally, I just help them understand that at the moment, we've just got a lot of stimulating energy in our world, and it's going to be affecting us in ways that we may not necessarily be tangible, be able to explain.
This is where I find clinical practice to be so fascinating, because people will have things happen or they'll feel something for whatever reason. Could be the cosmos, could be their drive into the clinic. Who knows? Maybe because anxiety is a popular diagnosis to have these days. I mean, there's that. It's fascinating. I'm getting patients now with diagnoses that I have to go look up because I'm not familiar with these. I think they're from TikTok influencers. And people of a certain age are listening to TikTok influencers. This is me, and this is the diagnosis. And it's just fascinating to me.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't come across the TikTok diagnoses, but I do know that people like to Google Dr. Google.
Yes, well, it's moving to I've got patients with TikTok gynecologists, a lot of people that listen to TikTok kind of psychotherapists.
Wow.
But, that's just a sidebar that I find curious. The thing that I find most interesting is people have an experience, and then, I'm the same. I think we're all the same. To some degree, we have to make a story about it that makes sense to us. so we can kind of get through it, make some meaning, or have an excuse, or have a reason that feels helpful in some way. And it's that story-making piece that I find fascinating.
Well, it's how they make things right, and well, how we, not they, how we all make things right in our world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel that this year I'm seeing, certainly in my clinical practice, but also in my personal world, this heightened recognition that there's just a lot of energy coming at us. And there's times of reaction or interaction with that energy. And then there's a lot, and I see this a lot clinically, there's almost a disconnect to what's going on in the greater world because it's become too much. And we've seen a bit of that in the recent years, but this year the volume has turned way up. And I feel like people are understandably, and I know I've certainly made this a practice, is to stay in my lane, stay in my focused on what I can affect and control in a positive way, like manage, and not go outside too much of those parameters. And I see that in my patients as well. And I live in a small community. So in that respect, and we all can make bubbles wherever we are, but I see it happening really clearly this last several months. It's like, okay, I can walk my dog and I can go to work and I can have my massage or I can come in for acupuncture. I can go travel to see family, but their worlds are becoming very protected. I think that's the best way to explain that. As a result of so much energy going on outside of us.
I get it. I find myself doing the same thing. I look at the outside world. There's some things I wish would be different. Do I have my hands on that steering wheel? Not even close. Do I have my hands on any kind of lever that would change it? No. Other people do. I don't. Not me in my life. And so, yes, increasingly, and I use that phrase as well, swim in my own lane. Then there's the other part that's like, well, you're not being a good citizen. If you're a better citizen, you'd be doing something, air quotes, doing something. And yes, it's that dance between what can I do and be effective at in the place where I actually am and might have an impact versus some kind of spinning out.
Right. Right. And that speaks to, I don't think it's too soon to bring this up, but the energies for the year with the abundant water and then all this yang fire. We've got a lot. Like abundant water to me, I think of the Mississippi River, I think of the Indian Ocean, like I think of large bodies of water that are in motion that are actually kind of hard to direct. You know, they've got their own thing going on, right?
Water has its own agenda.
It has its own agenda and it's deep and it's you know, it's got a lot there. And then we have all this yang fire energy that's meeting it almost equally. And I don't want to take too much of a leap, but it's that classic clinical discussion around the heart and kidney, like the fire and water. And you know, we need the water to balance the fire, but we also don't want the water to put the fire out. And we don't want water to push so hard up onto fire that it then reacts, you know, it kind of counteracts back onto water. There's just, I think it just speaks to the inherent power of the year energetically. And then we can bring it back into the personal, and it's really important for our heart and kidney, water, fire elements to maintain that balance. So for some people, the water energy of the year can be too much, depending on where they are and what their constitution is. That abundant water could just really have them sitting on the couch because it's put out their fire, right? Even within the context of a yang fire year.
So the fire on the inside is out, but the fire on the outside is raging.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's something to watch for. As we're speaking about this, and I'm thinking about some people that I've been seeing, that describes what I think I see unfolding for them. There's a phrase that I've been hearing over the past yearish, maybe, but I hear it more and more. It's people coming in and they'll say something about something that troubles them, and they say, oh, I can't. I just can't. And I always think to myself, can't what? What can't you do? And sometimes I'll ask them, and they have no answer. They're just kind of throwing their hands up. I can't. I just can't. And it's a little bit dismissal, and it's a little bit sarcastic, and it's a little bit screw you. And now I'm wondering if, wow, I just wonder if their internal water has put out their fire.
Right. I mean, like I said, it depends on someone's constitution, where you are geographically. And something that I've been working with over the last year is making note of the Yun Qi, or the period Qi of a person's birth year, and how that Yun Qi, which is their overarching energetic blueprint, right? And of course, we get into the month and the day, and like the Bazi goes down into detail with that. But from a practitioner standpoint, me just wanting to understand the macro of someone's life, I've been dialing into the Yun Qi of their year of birth, and then what was the climactic, or the 6 Qi, that was present during the month of they were born. So the first half of the year is sort of changes roughly February to July, and then the second half through to January the following year. And so, for example, someone who is born in a year ending in 3, that's an inadequate fire year, right? The Yun Qi was inadequate fire. So depending on where that person is in the world, in the Northern Hemisphere right now, that abundant water could just put them right out, right? Because their energetic blueprint, if you will, the foundation of it is a year of inadequate fire. And it's not bad. It's just
their makeup. That's their DNA, their emotional DNA. They're not emotional, but like energetic DNA.
Yeah, yeah. So, all this abundant water, like for someone, like I think Kansas City flooded yesterday, I believe. So if someone is in, like, with a deficient fire blueprint, all that water, I mean, they could be saying, I just can't, right? And it's kind of going back to your point. I find interesting, and it almost speaks of a wood response. Kind of like, just I'm going to move on. No, I can't do it. I'm going to move on, kind of thing. I don't know. Or maybe I'm misreading that.
Maybe. I hadn't, all I know is I hear it a lot, and it always leaves me curious as to what it is you can't do. And I will often ask, because I'm a nosy acupuncturist, and I'm thinking this might help me with the diagnosis. You can't what? Like, what needs help here? What might I be able to support, or what might I be able to help take away in service of support? And more times than not, I cannot get a clear answer out of people.
It's pretty interesting, actually, to ponder about that response. And then when asked, they still can't really come up with something.
That's been my experience. I mean, you could try it yourself and see what you get. We could check in with each other in a couple of weeks, and listeners, the same. It's a great question to ask people. Oh, you can't? Okay, I can't what?
Right.
I'm a little flummoxed by it, honestly. I mean, maybe it is a weak wood. It's like wood setting a boundary, or wood going, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what it is. It's very...
Actually speaks to a lack...
It's very incoherent to me.
Right, which is a lack of connection.
Say more about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you ask... I mean, someone saying it is one thing, but then being asked, what is it that you can't do, and they can't answer, leads me to believe that why they said it in the first place is not connected to anything of substance.
That's interesting. It's not connected to something of substance.
Because I know if I say I can't do something, usually it's based on some recognized limitation or taxation on behalf of me. So if I say I can't do, like I can't, and you ask me, well, what can't you do? I'm projecting here, but I would be kind of like, you know what? I'm exhausted. I'm over, whatever. I'm committed. I don't have the time. There's going to be a reason for me to say that rather than nothing. I don't want to go around in circles here, but it's an interesting conversation.
If you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a fan of having a small business. Running an acupuncture practice indeed requires attention to detail when it comes to managing your office. And that's why I use Jane to run my clinic. It's not just the excellent EMR or online scheduling system, both of which are a backbone to my practice. Jane also allows me to automate patient communications. They love getting text and email reminders from me, which helps to reduce no-shows. And because I choose the language for these communications, patients think I sent the message myself. They like that personal touch. I'm impressed with how flexible and scalable Jane is. From a small clinic to multiple locations and services, Jane can help you to organize the business side of the house. See how Jane can help you too by visiting jane.app/demo. Sign up for Jane and use the code QIOLOGICAL to get a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Yeah, I don't have an answer to this.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're talking about it. I felt a little, I felt a bit flummoxed by it. Like, what do I do with this? My usual ask the follow-up question usually gets me some kind of a response that is helpful in a diagnosis or figuring out what to do with the treatment plan. But this, I get nothing.
And you've been hearing it more recently, maybe in the last 6 months or before, maybe. Sounds like it.
You know, I would say before. I think I've been hearing it probably for the past 2 years, but maybe increasingly lately.
I mean, it does kind of speak to the overarching angst that we've all been experiencing now for a while. And there's a crescendo happening, I believe, which, going back to talking about the middle of the year, I know looking into the early months of 2026 that I knew the energies at play. I was like, let's see how it all plays out. I had no idea. I mean, how things have turned out. Wow. How could I see that coming? Like, wow, we're at war again? Like, what's happening, right? So now going into the peak yang time of the year, and probably around about the time people will be listening to this, the Yun Qi is not predictive. It informs us. System, Wu Yun Liu Qi system informs us, but it's not predictive. We don't know, And so all I can say is this, I just can't, is probably going to become more common going into the height of the year because of the yang and fire energies. And it also depends how much someone maybe gets disconnected from their core, which I consider is the water element.
I like what you say about that this is informative, it's not predictive. I think it's an easy thing for the human mind to want to try to predict, look around the corner, if we possibly can, see if there's trouble or opportunity or something to eat or something to run away from, right?
Right.
We want to try to look around corners, and I think it's partly what's made us successful as a species.
Well, we want to be prepared.
We want to be prepared. That's right. But not predictive. And, I think to what you were just talking about, where we have the influences of the moment, but you've also got whatever influence you were born with. You've got where you live. There's all these pieces that go into it that makes it impossible to be predictive. At the same time, I don't know what the word is. It's not predictive. But you can kind of have a sense of what might be coming. There's a flavor to the thing.
Right. And depending on a person's constitution, choices they've made, whatever, wherever they're living, you can move forward accordingly. So if the abundant water qi starts showing itself climatically in your area and you're working with a person who has a lot of water deficiencies or stagnation, what have you, it's going to more than likely get aggravated. But first and foremost, you're going to treat what you see, right? You're going to treat what you see when they come into your office that day. And knowing this theory can inform you to I think, larger degree and allow you to implement treatment protocols and herbal formulations that you may have got to on your own, but maybe you got there faster because you understood the additional layer of what's happening with the qi at the time.
Like we were talking a few minutes ago, treating the coughs. Do you treat what you see, or do you treat that fire is melting down metal? Well, keep an eye on the fire melting down metal and then see what you see.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a 4-needle treatment. I've been doing the SOM stuff for a while, and lately I've been playing with this. We call it HVAC, heating and ventilation, where you can use needles to like heat a channel up or cool a channel down. And it's really cool.
That sounds cool.
Well, it can be hot too, depending on what you're doing. But I'm just thinking, wow, might not be a bad idea just to look and see, is there some extra fire? Is that pulse a bit rapid? Actually, I felt a lot of agitation now that we're talking about it. I don't know why this happens. Sometimes I'll notice things in clinic, like left-hand side, that stomach heart pulse. It's been really agitating a lot of people lately. I've just noticed it, and I can't quite get it to shift. It's like, oh, it's there, but it may not even fit with what else is going on with them. But I have been noticing it. As we're talking, I realize I've been noticing it. So maybe I just add a little cooling of fire to see if it takes care of it.
I mean, and now we're talking too about more the agitation and irritation. Like 3, 4 more people come to mind who have been managing or experiencing these lung issues. I think nearly every one of them has said to me, this has really irritated me, that it's lingered for so long. Why can't I bounce out of it? And so there's this irritation that's not really a liver irritation. It's more of a like agitation from fire. And to me, that fits the picture because it's like, okay, this is what's happening. Like, fire is melting metal and your lung is weakened and now it's lingering, but the fire is still there. And that's
because the fire is all around us, because we're living in fire.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Horsey fire.
Horsey fire, yeah.
Horsey fire at that.
Yeah, which is there's an urgency. The time of Wu, right, is from 11 to 1 of the daytime. So it's peaking. And we're right in the middle of it. And we're just heading into the peak time of the year in the northern hemisphere, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is where understanding what's happening while observing what's showing up in front of you clinically informs your practice, right? And enables you to be ready. I'm stalking. I mean, I have been going through some herbs very quickly, some patterns very quickly that I just last week I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to, like, I'm out of Jiaowei Xiaoyasan again. I have to keep on catching up. And my gardenia and my granule pharmacy, like, I can't keep it. I can't keep it in stock because I'm using it so much. So there's.
You just said gardenia, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, this is funny. I was just thinking to myself, maybe for the summertime, go buy some like raw herb gardenia, and just make it into a little tea.
Mm-hmm.
Just maybe put some bitters in it even. Right, just to flavor it up, and just make it like a little mocktail or a tea, or add it to some tonic water, just as a way of like dispersing off that heat that's all around us.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, in the Neijing, it talks about using the sweet. Well, salty drains fire, but as does bitter. Well, bitter kind of tonifies fire, but sweet can moderate it, and so. You could add a little sweetness to that tea. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think
Datsao and Zhizi.
mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah, there you go. That's mm-hmm. That would be perfect. Yeah, or even Hongzao. Yeah, the red.
Hongzao, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's definitely a theme, and I feel more clearly from our conversation these people that have come into my mind that have been dealing with the metal fire, they need gentleness, they need softness, they need they're like afraid edge. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like energetically they're frazzled. And I think that's part of the overarching energy with all this yang fire is that there's this it's easy to become frazzled or overtaxed, just like burnt out, like, done. It's kind of like saying, I just can't. It's like I'm done.
I can't. Well, and this is the other thing they say. I'm done. I'm done. I can't. I'm done. Again, done with what? What are you done with? Done. I'm just done.
It's interesting. It's kind of like, well, is that an option? Can we be done? Well, no, I think life's still going to keep on showing up. So in reality, you can't be done. I mean, you can be whatever you want, but at the same time, it's kind of like, you need to keep on trucking.
So water could be a balancing support in this time of fire, or it could get into a battle with fire, and that creates its own problems.
Mm-hmm. Because they're both yang, abundant being the yang expression of water.
Mm.
And then we've got the yang expression of fire. They're meeting each other equally, energetically in the greater world, right? Our macro in our universe. And here on Earth, how that plays out within an individual is, influenced by other factors, but it's going to be a theme.
Yeah, it's really got me thinking here and going back into clinic and looking at how much of whatever's going on for someone is about them as a person, so to speak, like their inner world, the way they're just put together, and how much of it is the influence of the outer world impinging on them. And it's impinging on everybody because it's so excess. It can't not.
It is. And there's going to be some clinical fatigue, I'm sure, within the profession, because we as people, we're practitioners, but we're individuals, are having our own response to the external world events that needs to be processed and honored and shown up. But when you go into clinic, I don't know about you, but it's so automatic for me anymore. It's sort of, once I walk through the clinic door, it's like I'm in this other space and I'm holding space for whoever I'm seeing.
Yes.
And my stuff gets put wherever it goes, which is fine. And I'm fine with that. However, the volume has been turned up so much for people that I see, whether they're aware of that or not, that I'm finding my downtime has become more and more important to me over the last few months. And I've been practicing for a long time, so that could be part of it. I've lost track of 30 whatever year it is that I've been treating people, and that's okay. But I'm very conscious of it right now. I'm very conscious of it. That I'm walking out of the clinic some days going, phew, like more so than I've done before. Yeah.
No, I get it, what you talk about. There's that, a friend of mine calls it the sacred space of clinic. You walk into the clinic and you take the usual you. It doesn't go away. It just has a quieter voice because our opinions don't really matter. Right? We're there for someone else. I find it to be a kind of relief, to be quite honest, that I can be there and attentive to somebody else and not have to be running my, blah, 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 and then this and then that. And well, because the word, because they and that, on and on. All right. Like you go on with your friends or your spouse or whatever. It's like, oh.
The clinic is a safe space that way. Definitely.
It is a safe space, and you can be curious about other people in a way that allows them to share with you what's true for them in a way that maybe they can't share that with other folks because we all have the blah, 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 but because there's a little bit less, sometimes there's like a little more coherence that'll come out. At the same time, when we walk back out of that room, it's not, we're not affected.
Right. Right. And I don't know that we've practiced during a time. I was thinking about this morning, and 9/11 came to my mind, and I had a full day that day. Was it a Thursday? Anyway, it might have been, anyway. And I was about, I had an 8:30 or 9, and my girlfriend called me and she's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "At clinic." She goes, "Do you have a TV?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "What is going on?" And she told me. And I was like, "Oh, no." And my first patient walked through the door, shell-shocked, and said, I know what happened. I think I need to go home." And I was like, "Yeah, go home." And that day, of course, unfolded as it did, but I don't know there's been another pure, I mean, that was a day. I mean, a life-altering day, time, awful. This is not as, I mean, it's on many levels as dramatic, but it's prolonged. It's going on longer.
It's prolonged. It's a yearly effect. It's an ongoing influence, which is different than
Right.
the towers are falling.
Because that was shock. I mean, that was like, okay, everybody just stand still. It was, yeah, it's different. I mean, it's similar. I mean, it's similar in that there's a taxation happening in real time, but where we are right now, it's this unfolding, this continual unfolding of traumatic events or disturbing events, right? And so there's a wearing happening which is new to me.
You use the word taxation.
Taxing our chi, taxation.
Taxing our chi.
Like there's this way, like it's taxing us. Yeah.
Yes. It's kind of an old-fashioned term.
I think of my mother. Bless her soul. Yeah, she would be 102 right now. But yeah, no, she used to use that term.
And when she used the word taxation,
Depleted.
what did that mean?
I feel taxed. And it's interesting because we use
I just can't.
I just can't. Exactly. I just can't. It's almost like the same thing.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think we just got some, perhaps a glimpse of clarity on that one. It's a kind of taxation.
Exactly. And we feel it in our chi, and it's whether, I mean, sure, I can get up and I can go do my walk or I can go do my swim and I can go see patients and et cetera, et cetera. It's a background taxation. It's a background pulling of energy that we know is there, even though we can continue about our normal activities. Yeah. It's a weariness.
Yes, it does create a weariness. I'm just thinking what you were talking about with 9/11 and talking about this fire horse year influence. 9/11 seems more like a trauma. Fire horse isn't so much a trauma as it is a taxation.
Right. Very good distinguishing factor. Yeah.
It's a hypothesis.
I'm just going to go back to that time if I can in my calendar. I'm just curious. Yeah.
9/11?
2001, right? Yeah, it was.
2001. I was living in Taipei, Taiwan.
Oh my. Yeah, it was yeah.
Yeah, so a British friend of mine called me and said, "Have you heard?" And I said, "What?" He says, "Sit down."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a deficient water year.
A deficient.
The Yun Qi was inadequate water. Interesting. I just like to think of correlations. But yeah, 9/11 was a trauma, whereas the horse year, coming off the heels of the last 2 years, I think we've talked about this. I've been on here during that time. Let me think. 20 inadequate metal. 24 was abundant earth. Yeah. So like the years characterized by abundant Yun Qi, the volume's just turned up. It's a yang energy, right? And so it's much more in your face, if you will. So the last couple of years, it's sort of like this has been building to this point. And so we've landed with this abundant water that is being met by yang fire and the energy of the horse. So it's sort of the crescendo almost. And no wonder we're tired, or no wonder we're feeling it.
I'm definitely going to order some Jurtsin.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Seriously, I'm really curious to see how that might help as just a little summer beverage, a little something to sip on. It's dispersing of heat. It's kind of bitter. Like we're talking about, add just a little bit of sweet, moderate it.
Soothe.
And just see if that can just cool down this stuff coming in from the outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then just pay attention or be mindful of what's going on with water because that we don't really know how that's going to show up.
What are some ideas you have of how it might? Do you have any, like, I was going to say warning signs, but just glimpses or suspicions about how that might decide to unfold?
I mean, climactically, I think it would unfold as erratic weather patterns. So for us in Western Colorado and Colorado as a whole, we had it's almost like we had summer in February into March, and then we had a flash winter blizzard for half a day 3 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. And then we bounce right back up to 75 degrees, right? So it's the erratic nature. And if we think about it, if we've got the yang fire and we've got abundant water, which is essentially the yang expression of water, meeting each other equally, well, when one takes a breath, well, the other is going to come up really, you know what I mean? It's going to be right up in your face. And then,
I live in Tornado Alley, where cold fronts and warm fronts come together in very dramatic ways. And that's exactly what happens. One takes a breath and the other takes it as an invitation.
right, right. So we could see that going through to the height of the year. I mean, energetically or just naturally, height of summer with the Xiaoyang, with the Xiaoyin fire horse year. I don't think we'll see a lot of it, but you just have to know. And especially where you are, the temperature changes must be amazing, like dramatic between the cold front and then the heat of the day that it runs into.
Yes. So I'm going to say yes and. Yes and, because that's just the nature of the Midwest. We joke about having four seasons in 24 hours because it's not unusual. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough that's like, oh yeah, that's the Midwest, right? We had the heater on in the morning, the windows open at noon, air conditioning on by 4, and then heat on again later in the. It's just, it could be nuts. We went from 80 degrees one day to, I want to say, 22, and like, super small amount of time. But you were also saying this was a Drayin period in the spring. Yeah.
Right now, Xiaoyan is the natural qi of the period, and then Jueyin's visiting. So we've got the wind, and rapid changes, right? Very changeable. It makes me think of Wei Qi. What do we do? How can we support someone's Wei Qi in such a dramatic weather shift? So that would be something clinically that I would look for. And I do hear, just because Western Colorado is by nature windy and dry, and so I'm just used to it, and so I do a lot of Wei Qi support. Either it's like lung 9, stomach 36, of course, but also sneak a little Qi tonic into, like, somebody may be very, liver, heat, robust, with a little bit of spleen going on, but not a whole lot. But I can tell their Wei Qi's a little unstable, so I'll sneak a little Huang Qi in or a little Baiju into a formula just to support, because of the changeable nature of our weather patterns. And also know that once we get through to this peak of the year with all this fire energy, it's going to give way very quickly when we get into the Taiyin period, which is pretty much from July 20th into September 20th or thereabouts. We have Taiyin naturally, late summer Qi, being visited by Taiyin.
Tie-in in tie-in? Double tie-in.
Yeah, double Taiyin, and the Qi, the six Qi that's predominant in the second half of this year is Yang Ming, cool dryness. So
Those are opposites of each other.
yeah, but I'm thinking moisture. I think it's going to be, we'll feel it because we're going to flip from this sort of peak of fire over into this like Taiyin, which is still warm, right? But there's moisture. And
It's going to be super. So it's going to be super humid here in St. Louis. Is what you're saying.
yeah, but then the Yangming coolness is going to. So with the climactic qi for a year, the qi that's present for the first half of the year does dominate the whole year, which in this case is Xiaoyan, which is the fire. But the second half of the year always has its own flavor, which in this year is Yang Ming. So the volume's going to get turned down on the heat, and then we're going to be bringing in more moisture. So I'm anticipating some interesting, well, potential for summertime colds. Something, you know what I mean? Because that's a shift. That's a, and when we see these shifts, if they're dramatic, our Wei Qi, people's Qi gets destabilized. And so then we can have these odd little, periods of a pathogenic factor going around the community that you kind of like, wait, it's August. Like, why are people getting sick? But it's because of this Qi shift within within our world.
So one of the things to be attentive to is how this affects people's Wei Qi.
That's where I go with it. Yeah. And that ties back into this continual taxation that we all kind of know is happening in the background, but we're able to maintain some kind of normalcy. That taxation makes us vulnerable to, or makes our Wei Qi vulnerable. It's almost like it erodes or it goes at the yin and wei, the balance between yin and wei.
Yes. Okay. So a little Guizhi tongue might be helpful. I'm thinking too of the formulas and the stanzas in the Shanghanlun are not coming to mind at the moment because I'm not a scholar. But I know that there are formulas that are for like some kind of invasion when there's already weakness on the inside, when there's already taxation, and then you get a, pathogenic excess coming in.
I think of Renshen Baidu-san, but I don't know that that's a Shanghanlun formula. I'm not, yeah. But that's where I think of Shanhan. I mean, I think of Renshen Baidu-san, but there's another one that just zips through my head. Yeah.
Might be a good time to go bone up on that.
Right, right. Go do some review. But yeah, I think, and this is what's great, and I've mentioned this before about the Wu Yun Liu Qi system, is yes, there are practitioners that are very versed in treating according to the Ling Shu, and they follow it all the way through in terms of understanding the theory, using the classical text to inform their treatment. That's because of spending so much of my career as a Zhang Fu practitioner. I'm not likely to do that. I mean, I like to read about it, and I might end up doing it without really knowing I'm doing it, but what I like about understanding the Wu Yun Liu Qi system is that if you understand the theory and you understand the principles and what's actually just what's happening, Qi shifts and what's happening between the climactic shifts, you can use your toolbox. You can use whatever toolbox you've got to treat the person to create the end result that you're wanting in accordance with what the Qi's doing at any given time.
Yes, because you're looking more globally in a sense. You can look on the inside and see what's happening with the person.
I heard the siren. It kept on going for quite a while. So that's a tornado siren.
That is a tornado siren. And I went outside to have a look because I always like to look at the sky when these things happen. And just in the north of us, it's black-green, but moving away from us. So I think we're okay for the moment.
My goodness. Well, there we are.
There we are.
Timing was rather appropriate for the dramatic weather conversation and the subsequent, I mean, to hear the alarm go off immediately, we're heightened. The taxation goes up a bit more. We need to find out if we're okay, and that happens a few times a week.
It can sometimes. And it's one of those things where when you live here, it's like, oh yeah, there's a tornado again. There's a tornado siren. Like, we should probably head to the basement. But I always like to go, look at the sky and just see what's what.
Of course.
But some people don't. It's just like, run to the basement.
Yeah. Yeah. But black and green, I mean, that's the cold, right? The cold, because when these tornadoes form, I don't know a lot about tornadoes, but it's sort of the theory of thunderstorms is like cold air mass heats warm air mass and boom, kaboomy, right? And so
they start to spiral with each other. You said something earlier in this conversation when you have the excessive chi of water and the excessive chi of fire. Actually, excess doesn't matter, like two excesses coming together. When one inhales, the other one comes in, right? It's like you can't have a pause. You take a step back and the other thing is going to advance 2 steps, right? And you push and, you get pushed back with commensurate force. So any little opening, that just creates a little vortex.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see that clinically with one of the people I've worked with who's been on a couple of rounds of antibiotics for pneumonia as a result. She had the flu and then RSV and then pneumonia, 2 rounds of antibiotics, then got a sinus infection, and she's back to normal now, but where are we? We're in end of April. It started at the beginning of January, and she's now, I believe, out of the woods. Her chi's strong. She's maintained a good, quality of life for the last couple of weeks and not getting wiped out. But I feel like her case is an example of the flu set up the first vulnerability, then RSV came in, then the pneumonia. She came up out of it, got the sinus infection, came back down again, and she's finally getting back onto that balance. And so my point here being is that for some people with their immune systems, if that breath is taken and there's some chi there, it's just going to jump right in and take the person down, a notch or 2. And with that also happening in our greater world in terms of the energetics this year, I think we're going to see that get played out in our patients more and more frequently as we go into the height of the year.
Are there any things that you're considering doing in clinic that would be a little bit preventative? Kind of like vitamin D in the winter, right? Something that for all your patients, because we're living through the time that we're living through, that fire horse is not a gentle pony in a pasture.
Right.
Anything in particular that you're thinking, every one of my patients, I need to at least attend to and consider, do they need XYZ?
Great question. Couple of things come to mind. Xiao Chai Hu Tang, and vitamin C, supplemental vitamin C. But yeah, the things that came readily to mind when you were asking that was Xiao Chai Hu Tang, vitamin C / chi support, right? But really dialing in and focusing on, are you okay? Like, are you getting time out? Like, can you self-regulate when you're, taxed? Are you able to have a Saturday morning at home reading the paper? Or do sort of encouraging them to create safe spaces throughout the course of their weeks to stay balanced? Because I think stress is one of the number one reasons why people's immune system go down, and they get some, invaded somehow,
In clinic, there's no such thing as a small detail. The needle you reach for, the formula you prescribe, the moment you choose to listen just a little bit longer. Your patients place their trust in you, and you deserve to place the same trust in the tools that you use. At Blue Poppy, they hold their products to the same standard that you hold your care. Herbal formulas crafted for efficiency, needles that perform the way you expect them to, clinic essentials that arrive on time. Because when your tools are dependable, your focus stays where it belongs, on your patients. No guesswork, no compromises, just steady support behind the scenes. Blue Poppy, the choice of practitioners since 1982. This is hilarious. Almost prophetic in a way, right? We had the sirens after talking about tornadoes. You were talking about, do people have a little space in the morning to just like read the paper or regulate? I remember getting up this morning and thinking, I just want to sit here with my cup of coffee. I just want to look out the window for a little bit. I don't want to do any qigong. I don't want to do any exercise. I'm not going to do my morning writing. I just want to look out the window. That's all I wanted to do.
There you go.
But I didn't. I didn't, because there was one thing and then another and then another and then one conversation. And now here we are, and I'll have clinic in a little bit. And, I'm into the day, and I remember having the thought, that's what I want. I want nothing. I don't even want a safe space. I want a restorative space. And I couldn't even catch it this morning.
That's the energy of this year. I mean, I hear you. I have the same. It happened with me this morning. I did my routine, and then I thought I had time to have a cup of tea and some toast with avocado, and before I knew it, like 4 or 5 emails came in. I hadn't tested my microphone for today. I was like, and all of a sudden, by 9:45, I was like, there's that energy. It's just boom, 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 boom. And some of it we have to respond to, but I also am more aware these last few weeks of saying, okay, it's coming at me quite quickly the day, but I can choose to slow the pace down if I'm able. And so I think that's something that I'm working with myself, but also in clinic, like helping people understand that it's okay, it's all right, like to put that errand or that chore off to the next day. If it means that you get a timeout, well then that's good. Yeah, yeah.
I get it. I say similar things to my patients because many of them are trying to do too much with too little. I see it all the time. I'm guilty of the same to a dramatic degree. Again, I just shared with you my morning that I allowed to get out of the way. Maybe I could take that 10 minutes. Let me run this thought by you. It's a thought experiment. Because sometimes I think, screw it. Let's go in the other direction. Like Firehorse. Let's just get up on that thing and ride like a crazy mofo.
Right.
So let's explore that for a second. Like, while this energy is here, because boy, howdy it is there another way besides I'm going to try to just keep low to the ground and hope it doesn't get too much craziness all over the place on me? Or is there a way of approaching this excess by basically saying, okay, saddle up, let's go?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the energy is there for creativity, project that needs energy. If you've got the focus and you can get on that, ride that energy, absolutely. It can take you a long way, most definitely. It's all about,
If you have you said if you have the focus.
well, right, because fire can, right, burn out of control. And so it's the harnessing of that creative nature of all that young fire energy. It's, yeah, giving it somewhere to go, which I think is probably as effective as a management tool as as is sitting low to the ground and letting it go over top of you. I mean, I think there's sometimes that there's a time and space for both, right? And so in these, good question. I mean, great thought process. Like coming into the next couple of months through pretty much to the middle of towards the end of July, if there's any kind of creative project that you really want to have take off or get some chi behind it, this is definitely the time to do it. It is. Because then there's going to be the tie-in, which is more the transformation of whatever that creative project is into something of, if you go, if you go along those lines, where it's the maturity of it and the grounding of it can happen in the next chi phase after the double fire.
Well, I guess I can rest later. I like because I mean, partly it's just my nature, and partly I like to experiment with things. There's a part of me that has wanted to keep my head down and like, oh my God, I can't wait till it passes, just please don't hurt me. And there's this other part of me that's like, screw it, like Firehorse, giddy up. Right? And when you're riding a Firehorse, a lot of things probably get out of your way. Like if you're on the horse, here's the thought, here it is, here's the image. I could either be that kind of shriveling character like, oh, I hope I don't get run over by the horse. I can't wait till this passes. Or I could get on that horse. And then my troubles become the sniveling little problems that are trying to get out of the way.
Right. It's riding that yang chi and the fire. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there. A lot of expression can happen. And I think
It takes some cojones to ride a fire horse, though.
it does. Do you know any fire horses?
I know 2026. I know that fire. Do I know any fire horses?
Right. Yeah, anybody turning 60 this year. Yeah. Yeah. I know a few, and
Who's 60 this year? Yes, I actually have a patient who's a fire horse.
they're so fun.
I've got a patient who's a fire horse. He's very watery, though.
Well, he was born during an abundant water, Yun Qi. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, and he works on the river,
there you go. Which is probably really good for him.
interestingly enough.
Yeah. So that's the fun thing that I've been doing. Like I mentioned earlier, like looking at the Yun Qi that was present in a person's year of birth and how that's kind of showing up. And I can use myself as an example. I'm a deficient water, and I was born in the year ending in 1. And I'm interested, and I was it's always, since I've been studying this material, I've been kind of like, wow, that's kind of interesting because I'm so earth. Like I am my weakness is damp, I'm stocky and I've got good muscle tone and I move, I'm also an ox. So like I move steady forward, I've got some fire in my chart, but so it doesn't happen all the time. But anyway, I had an aha moment. I'm like, wait, if the chi of the year was inadequate water, that means that the chi of earth can easily show up because it's the controller of water. And so I've started observing these patterns, and it's fascinating. And this is a fun and generational thing. But do you know who Ricky Gervais is? Yeah, the comedian. I was watching him on a show a couple of weeks ago with my husband, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's got to be born in 1961. And sure enough, he is. Just from his body type. I was just looking at his body type and I was like, there is that earth stocky, it's just, anyway, it's a fun little digression that I'm having right now with the understanding how the Yun Qi shows up and as our overarching energetic blueprint and how we show up in the world physically.
That's fun and interesting. Great stuff to explore. You said something about year ending in a 1 means something.
The Yun Qi.
So this holds true? Like years ending in 7 always mean the same thing, and years ending in 9 always mean the same thing?
Yeah, so we've got the 5 Yun, right? And we've got the yin yang expression. So we've got 10. So, starting with 0, that's an excess, it's an abundant metal. And then it goes to 1, which is inadequate water. And then we go to 2, which is abundant wood. And then we go to 3, is inadequate fire. And then 4 is abundant earth. 5 is inadequate metal. 6 is abundant water. 7 is inadequate wood. And then we end with 8. Did I miss one? 7, 8 is abundant fire. And then 9 is inadequate earth. Yeah. Yeah. And so it cycles through. And then, of course, the stem and the branch. So the Yun Qi is on a cycle of 10. The stem is on a cycle of 10. And then the branch is on the cycle of 12. And that's why it takes us 60 years to get back to the exact same Yun, stem, and branch. Yeah. Yeah.
Except it's one's going to be yin and one's going to be yang.
Yeah. Right. Right. Because it's the bigger cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember when I turned 60, I think it was a yang year, and the year I was born in was a yin year. So it's like you have to live to 120 to go full cycle.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so, and depending on, like I have a reference text from Peter Van Kervel, is celestial stems and terrestrial branches. And he talks about, and I've tried to find this in the Neijing, and I think I've come close, but the chapter 66 through 71 plus 74 is it covers so much terrain. It's just like, wow, this is mind blowing. But anyway, Peter Van Kervel but I find his text to be very user friendly. And he talks about how the Yun Qi of the year speaks to our congenital physical characteristics, like, propensity towards developing XYZ, or, like it's kind of what we come in with. And then the stem and the branch. Well, the Yun Qi is connected to the stem. So the stem's also going to speak to our congenital and physical characteristics, but then the branch is more our emotional and social and how we move through the world socially. Is more to do with the branch. And like I said, I haven't been able to find it exactly in the Neijing where it speaks to that, but yeah, he's probably got a reference in his text somewhere about that. But and it's ringing true. So someone born in an inadequate metal year typically is going to move. Is there a lot of fire? There's a lot of fire there. They move quickly. They're on the go all the time because the fire comes in on the metal.
Because the fire just comes in. Like you were saying earlier, if a phase pauses to take an inhale, its controlling element will just take that as an invitation to come in.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm inadequate wood,
metal.
then I'm actually inadequate wood. I was born in a 7-year.
No, I know, but then the metal energy, yes. Mm-hmm.
Then the metal comes in and dries my lungs out and gives me a cough.
Right. Especially during this year, right? Because metal's already being taxed because of the fire.
This year hasn't been too bad, oddly enough.
That's good. Yeah. But maybe it's the water. The water could be softening that a little bit for you. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot to the theory.
There's a lot to look at. And, it's, again, you were saying earlier, it's not prescriptive, but it is descriptive.
Right. Very.
Of certain things. And then it's like descriptive in what way? It's like, how does that match for a certain person, which of course is the fun and at times the annoying part of doing clinical work. Because we're taking these ideas and we're taking these sort of lenses to view the world and view people through and see if we might in some way be able to be helpful.
Mm-hmm. And the key too, Michael, is to be open and flexible as to how the elements show themselves. And I think that, I haven't taught at the master. Well, I did teach last semester at the master's level, but anyway, I know that when I went to school, which was a long time ago, and how the programs were and probably still are to a certain degree, things were very prescriptive. It's very much in a box. Like you see this, you do this, right? And then of course we get out into clinical practice and everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute, like that's not adding up. Like this box doesn't equal that box, and et cetera, et cetera. And so you have to become as flexible as you're able to be over a period of time. And that's where our patients teach us so much about our medicine and how it shows up in them, or how it works for them. And I like with this theory, it speaks to that flexibility even more because we have these elements at play. Do we know what it's going to look like? We can have an educated guess. But it's what I like is just observing, like just being like, yep, there it is.
Being open to being surprised. Oh, I didn't think about metal manifesting like that. Look at that. Hadn't thought about metal looking like that. Oh, there it is. Now you know something more about metal. It's kind of endless, isn't it?
It is. And that's what is, just so rich about this medicine and going beyond the building blocks that we all needed. We all needed them. But build on those building blocks. Don't let them limit you. And study, learn other systems,
It really takes that. It takes time and years to go into something to get it at any kind of depth that might be helpful. You said you've been practicing north of 30 years. You can't even remember. I've been practicing for north of 25. I can't remember either. I just remember it like at 25 years, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I passed that. It's weird when people say, how long have you been practicing? I'm like, well, not exactly sure. I don't know what else I'd do.
I have a number of patients that I can now say, since before you were born. Sorry.
Since before you were born.
I graduated in 93. So, yeah.
That is hilarious since before you were born. But look, this you just spoke to something that on one hand, we'll be constantly learning our whole life through, which, man, that sounds groovy, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound great? Here's the flip side of that. Shit, I'm going to have to learn new stuff my whole life through. Here's the other thing, and this is for new practitioners. Let's be honest here. You get out of school with an accounting degree, you're pretty much good to go. How long do you think you have to put in to a practice before I'm kind of getting it? Getting it in the way that you were just talking about. The phases are much more interesting and convoluted and curious and surprising than I ever imagined they were. How much time do you need in the boat before you start to feel like you're a somewhat fluid practitioner?
I mean, great question, Michael. And I think it does depend on each person and also where you are in your life when you come into being a practitioner. So, because there's a certain degree of life experience that informs clinical practice. So, someone who goes to school in their early 40s, they've got a child or two, a different career behind them. They're bringing in a degree of life experience that will inform them as clinicians, right? So their trajectory could be a little faster because they're not navigating new social interactions. They're not navigating, the sense of responsibility because they've already got kids. Do you know what I mean? Like there's parameters as opposed to someone who's coming in to the profession. They're starting school in their mid-20s, late 20s. Yes, they've got life experience and it's going to build on it, but it might take that trajectory could just be a little longer because at the same time as them getting used to the medicine, they're also getting used to being older. You know what I mean? Like getting some years under their feet as
Getting used to being older.
well, just being in this world longer, right? And yet, I've worked with students in their mid-20s that they just gobbled it all up, and they just could gobble it up really fast, and they just could do it, right? And then they got out, and their training wheels, so to speak, more focused on social interactions and people and communication and that kind of thing. So, so I just wanted to say that there's some parameters there that impact where I might land, and based on working with practitioners in the field at different varying, stages of their career, I think to be fair, to give yourself an opportunity to relax into the maturing process of being a practitioner, give yourself 5 to 8 years. Like just enjoy it. Like don't learn, of course, but also allow yourself some grace to just become who you are becoming and be patient. And because I don't want to freak anybody out by saying, after all this time in the medicine and working with people, I can open up the Huangdi Neijing and read something and be just like, what? Like, what? Really? Like that penny just dropped? Has that penny dropped before? Like, and I'll walk around for the rest of the day going, what? Why didn't I know that before now? and it's just, and because our medicine, the theory, especially getting into the classics, there's just so many layers and so many lenses through which we can view the information that was written so many centuries ago.
Yeah. Well, there's different lenses, and the lens is who you happen to be at the moment you read that book. There's that. I love your phrase, relax into the maturing process.
Yeah, because I feel I've experienced some really talented practitioners who walk away. And that's their path, right? It's okay. There's no judgment. But sometimes I wonder if there was an expectation that was preventing them from just relaxing and enjoying the process of becoming whatever, the practitioners that they would have, could have been. I don't know. I know. It's not an easy profession to get started in. It never really has been. And I doubt that it's any easier now.
Some things just are not easy. I think medicine is one of them. But I think a lot of things, art, writing, I don't know. Maybe anything worth doing requires some maturing into. Time in the boat, figuring out what works, what doesn't, who I am in the whole process. It just takes time.
It does. It does.
And it's not a product. So often I'm going to out myself as the boomer that I am. But I can remember a time when education was not a product. Education was a process. It was an experience. It was an opportunity to deepen, to be inquisitive. It wasn't a product. Education was not a damn product.
Yeah. It wasn't. Yeah.
And these days it is. Like, I paid my money, and if I didn't learn it, it's my teacher's fault. I think it's totally upside down. And the whole idea that we can go through a class or something and it means we know it is just simply wrong. You have to live into it. You really do. And your phrase, again, I'm going to say it again because it's so potent, relax into the maturing process, which means putting up with a lot of failure, a lot of insight, a lot of frustration, a lot of everything.
Yeah, fear, like, did I do the right thing? Could I have done better? But
Yeah. So could you have done better? Not that time.
Exactly.
Could I have done better? Not that time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think I agree with you. Well, a couple of things. I think education is not a product, and it has become a product. I love your ability to sort of express that, because it's kind of like, well, yeah, because back education, it was an experience, a process. Like, you hung out with your teachers, you hung out with your classmates and talked about things, and you didn't kind of just go boom, boom, boom. I jumped through all the hoops. I got my thing. I got the class done. I got the test done. I got the paper done. Next, boom. And that's not, yeah. And especially coming into our medicine, it's like a story. You're creating a story in terms of your journey with the medicine. Yeah. Yeah. And being good at writing, like, I know realtors that knock it out of the park, and then others that don't. Like, I know writers that knock it out of the park and others that don't. And it seems that it wouldn't be seemingly random, but there has to be a little bit of extra application or luck or something that comes into the mix for people to have the stay at itness that they need to.
The stay at itness. Yeah. You could call that persistence, or you could call it just
tenacity.
Plain old bullheaded stubbornness.
Yeah.
Tenacity, which I guess can leave you with taxation if you're feeling trampled by a horse, or it could leave you with exuberant joy if you're riding the damn horse.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go get up on that horse. I'm going to go ride it. I've got till the end of July now to ride the horse, like really ride it.
Yeah, I mean, longer. I mean, to some...
No, I mean, before it turns into tie-in.
Tie-in, yeah. You want to get on that yang energy. Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate the conversation. I'm going to get on the horse.
You're welcome. Have a great ride.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Till next time, then.
Yeah, thank you.
The interlocking wheels of the stems and branches for a long time has felt intimidating to me. I wouldn't say that I'm anywhere near as fluent as with it as Christine is. Far from it. But this is our third conversation, and I feel like I'm beginning to get a feel for the microcosm, macrocosm interweaving of influences. Of course, life and its permutations, it's never simply one thing. As much as my human mind wants to nail down a cause, I can sense there is an interplay of context and influences if I dial open my awareness. Even for relationships that seem simple. Like in this fire horse year of excess fire, we also have excess water. It's not a neat canceling of influences, but more like a clash of the titans. And how any of us experience this, it runs through both the fabric of who we are and the influences of where we live. Y'all got a taste for the influences of where I live in this conversation as a violent Midwest weather rolled through our conversation. Like people in Taiwan adapt to regular earthquakes, and those in tropical climates find ways of dealing with strong sunlight and heat, climatic influences are something that you learn to live with. You learn to read the weather, the color and height of the clouds, the scent of the wind, the texture of the humidity. As Christine points out, we are living in a moment of active and excess energies. This, in turn, wears on people. That taxation and a feeling of being incapable in the face of feeling constantly buffeted, I get it. Like Christine, I see that in the way many of my patients are presenting. I feel it myself. I also hear that this is a time where the wind can fill the sails of a goal that you want to accomplish, a project that has your attention, and this creative fire doesn't last forever. Time passes and opportunities are lost. I'm thinking I could put my energy into trying to defend against the turmoil of the moment, or I could saddle up and put that fire to productive use. As ever, there are choices, and the choices we make set our trajectory.